how I don't want to just quit because it's getting hard. And so that's what I really got out of these 2 chapters is just I can't control, or I mean, I can control like my actions and my words. I can't control people. I can't control their actions. And so that's just kind of where I'm at there. So I'm not going to quit. So this chapter was just like, it just meant a lot to me, and it was all happening about the same time that these fights were happening. So it's kind of weird how God worked that out. But I'm not going to quit, but it definitely looks like an easier way to go.
Yeah, and it always does, doesn't it? I mean, quitting is the easier route because we have to push in and be determined. But Nicole, I so appreciate you sharing that. So first and foremost, I want you to know that you have about 18, 19 women that are now going to be praying with you and praying for your marriage. So thank you for being vulnerable enough to allow us to even hear that. But you just literally brought an army around you to pray with you as you work through this process. But I think that that's the big thing, that we all see ourselves in this trap of quitting because we are exhausted, just like she talked about. And we do kind of want to give up and just kind of be numb to life and let all those feelings go away. That's the easiest thing to do. And I think we go down years and years later and realize that because we quit so often and so many times, we are where we are, right? So what perfect timing for you to even be reading this. So thank you. Who else would like to share?
I just had a comment. I'm driving, so I'm going to look forward and comment. But Nicole and all of us, I think our world gives us the excuses to quit and justify quitting. And I see that more and more with our younger generations. Everything's okay. You don't have to put up with this. You have all these rights, and we don't. And I think that's in marriages, in all relationships, and in a lot of areas. If you can't do a class that you're doing, it's you're too busy, you're stressed out, you're tired, you don't have to do it. Just come up with excuses. And I just see that more and more around me and with myself, and I've done that with myself too. But commitment, not being a quitter, is not easy. 35 years of marriage, Nicole. I can give you some tips. Love you. And that's, I'm going to pay attention.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Shelley. Anybody else want to share the last time you felt like quitting?
So, Melissa, can y'all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking, sometimes I think we feel like it has to be this huge thing, which there are things huge like marriage, and gosh, my husband and I are going through a season of fighting as well. So Nicole, I get it. It's really hard and it's horrible. But it's not always the big things. It's sometimes the little things. It's the daily, like, just the past couple of days for me, like I'm really trying to get back into my IPAs, but it's like every time I sit down and try to do it, something happens. And like I found myself, like yesterday or whatever, like just forget it. Like I give up. Like I can't even sit down for 30 minutes, y'all. So between, the animals and the husband and the kids and the phone ringing, and it's just like it's always something. And that's where, you have to be intentional with your time and just make it happen. But just even in those little things every day, you feel like quitting. So it's not just, it's the big things too, but it's just those little things. You just have to find that 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, as best you can, and just any progress is good progress, right?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Any other thoughts?
I'll share.
Yeah.
For me, I've been on this health journey, which led me to Plexus in the first place, but I have lead poisoning, and every time I go through a bout of trying to clean or extra detox my body, it throws my whole body, my hormones, everything out of whack. I know it's going to happen, but it just recently happened, and I wanted to quit. I just didn't want to eat what I'm supposed to eat. I didn't want to exercise the way I was supposed to have to. I didn't want to drink my water. I was just boo-hooing and being a big baby. And, you know, I had a weekend where I didn't follow the rules, my diet rules, and now I'm paying for it. Now I don't feel good. Now I'm sick again. I know this is a process. It is a journey. And to get there, I have to take these steps, but sometimes it's just hard. And, having that chocolate chip cookie this weekend,
Didn't help.
it was fabulous. But, now my stomach's been in not having gluten for a weekend when I haven't had it for 3 years. It's horrible. But I know this is a path I have to take. It's just hard.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting because on page 51, she says, on that second paragraph, my defeat comes from my thoughts and my reactions. Usually we are not defeated by what others say or do to us. Ultimately, we are defeated by what we say and do to ourselves. Like we're doing it to ourselves, and we're playing these stories in our mind and playing it out. And then she goes on to say, emotions, circumstances, and feelings will always attempt to dictate our level of commitment to the task before us. That's kind of like with you, Dawn, right? Emotions, circumstances, and feelings are going to dictate that commitment. She says, I've also seen how many Quitzillas have deep wounds from past failures. And I think that's what I see the most. It's the past failures and the wounds of that are not allowing us to move forward. And I think with that, for all of us, it is something that we need to really think through to really deal with those past wounds so that they can be healed for us to move forward. That's where I see a lot of the sabotaging and a lot of the quitting life, whatever it is, diet, community, exercise, marriage, friendships, careers, like as soon as it gets hard. And I think that the thing that stands out to me more and more and more, and this book is just emphasizing it, is where are we going to go? Where is our future headed if we cannot be strong and stay committed and determined? What's going to happen just to our society? What's going to happen to our generations? Like, they are depending on us to set the pace and the mold. And I think it's just, our world has gotten so easy to jump ship. So, but I do think that most of it has to do with the past wounds. But if you look at page 52, I love this scripture, and some of you guys might have it highlighted in your Bible, but it's Joel 2:25. I will restore to you the years that the swarming locust has eaten, the hopper, the destroyer, and the cutter, my great army, which I sent among you. And just knowing the promise of restoration, that everything that we can't look at our past and our failures, and every time we quit and sit where we are and sit in a pity party, we've got to really sit in a place of promise that there is restoration and there's promise of restoration. We definitely have to do our part in that process, but it is there for us. And for all of us, even with me, with being a career woman and having children and questioning, over and over again, was I a good mom? And did I give my children what they needed? And all of those pieces, this Joel 2:23 would stand out so much whenever I did make bad choices or did make bad decisions, that there is a promise of restoration. And that's what we need to stand on. Even some of the conversations that we've already heard here of prayer requests that we need to be praying over, you stand on the promise of restoration, what God can restore and what he can do and what he can redeem, which I think is where we need to be. So this is my next question for you. What are the areas in your life where you've become a bitter quitter? And that was kind of her next area that I thought was so good. of being a bitter quitter. And she talked about on page 55, the research. Were y'all not fascinated by the research that she talked about? The effects of bitterness can have on our bodies, especially how we feel, the physical fit side of that. And she says there's a term for prolonged bitterness called PTED. Anybody heard of that before the book? PTED? Yeah. Post-traumatic embitterment disorder. People experience symptoms of anxiety, depression, rage. I have even heard that it can also affect their immune system and organ function. So share a little bit with me of you. Has there been that time where you became a bitter quitter and bitterness overtook?
Hi, I'm
Hi.
Megan. An incident comes to mind with a family member. I don't know why it always comes back to family members, but I guess it's the people who, you're alongside and you see the good and you see the bad and they see that in you. So, but this family member is married into my family, and I had to unfollow him on Facebook because I can't handle what he's sharing on there, because it directly goes against like my lifestyle and who I am at the core. Like our cores are different. And but I love who he married and I love his family, but it's really hard to love him. And there came a point with so much turmoil in my mind and in my heart against this person because of something that he said or something he took offense about, and I usually don't struggle with people, but man, I struggled with this one, and I got like sick to my stomach over it, just turmoil in my mind and in my heart. And I was fighting this battle of forgiving, just for who he was, who he still is today. I just have to forgive him because he is blinded to the truth. I'm walking in the light. I'm walking in freedom, and he is blinded. There's a curtain over his eyes. So I can't stay mad at him. I'm supposed to love him. And that was just hard. And so I'm kind of glad they don't, live in Texas. I don't have to see him very often, but when I do see him, and we'll see him this summer, oh Lord, I have to just pray because I want to be a witness to him, but it's so hard when what he stands for is directly opposite of what I stand for. And yet we're family. And so I talked to my mom one time. I was like, Mom, I'm struggling with this. How do you do it? How can you love someone yet kind of really kind of not like them a lot at the same time? And she was like, think of their their eternity. Think of eternity. Think of them where they'll be. Pray for them. Pray for him, Megan. I'm like, it's so hard, So I definitely had to walk through that, and I still have to walk through it. I'm going to have to walk through it again. Yeah, that's a real struggle for me. But I don't want to be sick over it. I do want to be a light. It's just really hard.
But can you see how, like, even in the midst, which I do love that you blocked him, right? Because if he's a trigger, you need to. But you really can get physically ill when you see those things, or you're around, like you feel your body change and the stress come on your body. And so for you have found ways through prayer and scripture and having conversation with people who you trust to advise. But I often think of the people that deal with things in secret, right? So there's so many women that are private about their emotion and their feeling and their bitterness. And to kind of see this whole PTED that goes on, and how it changes them physically and it changes them mentally. And the bitterness is such a cancer inside of them. And stress, we know with stress has been known for causing disease and high illnesses and things like that. So, I think that the big thing is combating with prayer and scripture. I know for me, and this was years ago, whenever I first became a believer and started walking with the Lord, and I worked for someone, and he was just the meanest person ever, and very, very verbally abusive and emotionally abusive and just hard. But my bitterness was so strong. And like I said, it was whenever I first came to know the Lord. But I was just like, God, can't you just kill him? Like, can't he just get run over by a bus or something? Like, I literally was like, what is his use? Like, he's so mean and he's so harsh and he's so belittling. And of course, it goes back to what this is saying, that a lot of our stuff comes from past wounds. So I was already wounded and he was feeding into those wounds. And because I didn't know how to get healing of those wounds, he was now that person that became my bitterness target. And it took years and years and years for me to go from a place of just wanting him to like just disappear to coming to the place of being able to pray for him. And so it is a process. I think we would probably all have a story that it's a hard process of getting to the place where bitterness does not eat us alive every single day. I think it's a fight that we have to step into the ring to be able to overcome. Does anybody else? Yeah, Tracy? Let me undo you. Hang on. Okay, you're ready.
Yes. Hey. Hi, everyone. I love hearing your stories. Thank you for sharing. I think when I started dealing with the bitterness I was having towards my father, who just recently passed away, and as I'm reflecting on the last 10 years of our relationship, once he married a new wife, our whole relationship changed, and not just with me, but with my siblings and his friends. And there was a lot of bitterness and a lot of hurt and just a lot of sadness because we were not as close as we used to be. And, I keep hearing about, Megan, when you were talking about how you had to block out your family member. The bitterness led me to a place of discovering boundaries, healthy boundaries. So until I could get more healing in my life and more forgiveness and more grace and compassion towards my dad, and realizing he is not a believer and he is searching for love and happiness in whatever way he knows how. And I had to sit back and realize it's not about me. And God was able to help me let go of that bitterness because I wanted a relationship with him. I did not want to be distant from him. So God kept showing me how to at least build boundaries and help me through that bitterness. And I will honestly say he died, and I was sad that I didn't actually get to talk to him about that. But I came to a healthy place where I felt like I was in a good place. It took 10 years to get there. But, it's just amazing how quickly bitterness can happen in any type of relationship, and I've had it in my marriage. I had it for about 6 years. In the last 2 years, God just again has taken me on a journey and just dealing with that. And so I didn't want to talk because I didn't read the chapters. And so that's all I'm going to say, because I'm going to let those of you who didn't quit and read those chapters, you share. But I just wanted to mention that. So
I appreciate that. That's super good. I wanted to share, because I love how she goes through this on page 57 and 58. It says, what is the thing that is making you feel so incredibly bitter and pushing you to quit? Don't let bitterness mess up this process for you. Ask the Lord to bring it to the surface right here, right now. And then she says, because he has seen it all, he so honors the process of letting go of our bitterness. So literally bringing it to him multiple times a day, multiple times an hour, multiple weeks of a month and multiple months of a year. Like he honors us bringing that and helping us through the process of letting go. It doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight. It means that it's a process that we walk through. But that is how that healing happens. And it says, life has dealt us, many of us, unfair cards. And when we feel like we've been treated unfairly, bitter roots have the potential to spread. Maybe we don't have PTED, but if there's a sting in your soul, there's a potential for bitterness to produce. And I thought about that. Have y'all felt the sting before? Like I have felt the sting in my soul. And I think that the closer we are to working through processes in our life, the closer we are to the Lord, of asking the Lord to heal our past wounds, that sting, we're way more aware of it. And what I love about that is that as soon as you feel the sting, you can start taking it to the Lord, like immediately, instead of allowing it to fester. Lastly, I wanted to ask you, what are some can'ts in your life that you have reframed? I loved this, of reframing our can'ts and making it a different sentence. So tell me some of your can'ts and how did you reframe them? It's very powerful to reframe, just like today, me talking to y'all before we got started about working out and going in there and laying down going, I cannot do this with this person. She's too hard. And immediately reframing that to say, I have the strength and the power and the ability to do this. I think that it's, when our words are powerful, and we've allowed the can'ts to be overpowering. And we're being given the opportunity and the permission to change our sentences of what we speak over ourselves and getting out of that. Somebody share something with me. What did you reframe this week?
I think my can't is we've been overseas for years, since I haven't been able to be close to my nieces and nephews and my brothers and their wives, and my brothers live with their wives, family, all their relatives live in that same place, and my parents live in New Mexico, which is pretty far away from everybody else, but they're planning to move back in Texas. But I think since coming back in May, I was really hoping, now that I'm in Texas, we can be close again. We can, see each other. And I'm like running into different like roadblocks and different things. Like I wanted to post on Facebook about my sister-in-law, having their third baby. And she's like, I don't know your friends, don't put my baby's picture up on your wall. It just like hurt me. I was like, I want to be happy, to share about this baby, so just trying to understand my, my family's expectations, and still trying to we haven't been around you very long to know you that well, and just trying, but I desire them. So sometimes I think, I can't get close to them or be significant in their lives or to be close, but then I say, no, I just need to pray that God would give me favor with them, and that he'll create those opportunities. So yeah.
And he will. I mean, I think the hardest thing for you is that you have come back here from overseas and being gone for so long. You're having to reestablish across the board. And I would think when you were overseas, you were lonely, but it was a different lonely. But now you're in America and you're lonely thinking, but I feel like I should be so much closer, and I'm not, right? But they're going to see the beauty of who you are, and they're going to trust and be able to see your joy and your enthusiasm, and they're going to quickly see the contagious of your heart. So I know it's hard. We will be praying for you. We will be praying, but you're right. Change your can'ts to can, because God's going to do some really big things with that. Right? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Who else? I want to hear one more I can't that you reframed.
I will. I'll go again because, I talked about that I've been fighting this health journey. So when I was having my pity party last week, and then I went ahead and read this chapter. So in saying I can't do this detox, it's too hard. Then I read on page 60, with the very first one, I am able to do all things through him who strengthens me. And I wrote that down. And so when I go in my bathroom, I can see it every morning. I can start my day. So again, this chapter couldn't came at a better time.
That's awesome. I love that. I love these verses that she gave us. I love that second one. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. He increases the power. Okay, let's move on into chapter 4. And one of the big things that she talks about on page 68 is hopelessness. And I wanted to ask you if you have had a hopeless moment in life. And we've heard some of those already, of the hopelessness. I shared with you a little bit of just my story. And she goes through, speaking of apathy and just the numbness that people have and the non-emotion. But is anyone open to sharing that hopelessness? Because we're going to look at that transformation of what happens within that.
I fight that almost every single day in my job search.
Yeah. So you're right in the middle of it.
Right in the middle of it, because 20 plus years of experience at a high level in HR, and I can't find a job.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's other people that have less experience that are finding jobs. So yeah, I fight it every day.
Mm-hmm. And how do you work on overcoming it? I know you do CrossFit, which I would think that would be a huge thing of getting your, like, using that stress and anxiety to.
I have to do that every day.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much every day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that if I don't get my workout in, it might not be pretty.
Yeah. Putting ourselves in action in some way, right? Opening up the blinds, taking a walk, getting outside.
Little things.
Yeah. Talking to friends that make you smile. All of those things.
Right.
Anybody else going through a moment right now of hopelessness?
I'll go.
Yeah.
So when in the beginning, when me and my son's father, I decided it wasn't gonna work. I didn't think I would be where I'm at now. Granted, it's not perfect, but it was just completely hopeless that I could be a parent to a boy, but dealing with the type of person I was dealing with. Still not perfect, but it's definitely better than what it was. I prayed a lot, and I learned in the midst of the journey to where I'm at now is I kept praying for him to be changed, and only to find out that it was just changing the way I looked at the situation. So changing the way I responded to him, changing the way, just not reacting to every little thing. So I had to just focus my attention on what I can do and how can I react versus trying to change him.
Right.
So sometimes it gets more hopeless than other times, but I always think about, even now when I think about the times that are just like, oh, I just want you out of my life. But it's like, man, but we've come such a long way. Like, I've come such a long way because I went from just ugly thoughts just because I didn't think I can deal with this man in our life, and now it's just, no matter what is brought to the table, it's like, you know what, we're still better than where we were. Like, it's not completely hopeless.
Yeah, but it is the changing of mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. What were you going to say?
No, I was just gonna say, I think, because I think about different relationships in my life where it's like, God, just change them, God. But it's like, sometimes it's us, or it's me. For me, it's just how I look at that person. And even though, God will work in them in their own way, but it's just how I react to that person or situation.
Yeah, you froze up there for a second. I love the quote that she spoke on page 68. She says, I believe the people who feel the weakest have some of the greatest God assignments to complete. When she's talking about the change is coming, that we're going to move out of hopelessness. Even if it doesn't seem like it, the boundaries of your current assignments are within the strength of God. Have you ever thought about your current assignments, which we talked about last week? That they are assignments. The refinement is, an assignments of improving ourselves, but that current assignment that we're in is within the strength of God and what He is going to do through us. But she walks us through finding hope. If you go over to 71, and she speaks here of the hope that she goes through. And I know for me, that moment of hopelessness that really hit me hard, but it literally, our whole family, we are who we are because of not just this moment, but just, it was a huge moment for us. But it was right after 9/11, and we lost everything. Like, I lost my job the day after because all of the contractors were let go. And my job was our main income. We had just moved into a home. We almost lost our home within months. We had a really bad car wreck and totaled our car. It was me and two of our children, and we couldn't get another car. And I remember we had to drive one of my parents' car, and it was really old, and I saw all my pride come out. Then our house flooded. We were out of our house for 3 months, and it was in the middle of the holidays. And then I didn't get another job for 13 months. And every single day, every single month, we were like, we're going to lose it all. Like, we were just in the midst of, do we buy milk or do we try to pay the electric bill? And it was the most devastating place of hopelessness to be. But in the midst of that 13 months, our family, the unit that we are, and the redemption that we have seen and who we have become, even though my children were so young, they were molded by those 13 months. Their hearts, their spirits, the way they view life, the way that they aren't materialistic kiddos, all of that was molded out of 13 months of hopelessness. And change does come, and God does use those things, and He changes our perspective and builds our character through those moments where we just want to quit. And there were so many days that I just wouldn't even talk for days and days and days because I was so overwhelmed. And I mean, just to see the redemption of all of that is amazing to me, to be able to see. So if you look at page 73, she talks about the filter of hope. And I love this process that she had us kind of walk through. And I just want to highlight this a little bit, and then we're going to move on from here. But it says to recognize that we cannot control the things that happen to us, but we always can control our reactions. And that's what I thought with what you were saying, Sabrina, is, you know, we can only work on ourselves. We can only work on what is going on in our lives and those reactions that we're going through. And honestly, for the majority of us, if we're going through a point of hopelessness, our reactions in the beginning are not pretty reactions. But I think that the more that we're broken through that process, the more we finally get on our knees in the process. And that's where the healing begins, and that's where the transformation begins, and that's where our reactions begin to change. And then her second thing, at the bottom of that first one, that very last sentence, it says, write down the things you can control right now and the things that you can't. And I hope that you took a moment to write down those things, because I think that that's so key. Because we can control how we spend money. We can control our activities of our day. We can control what we see, what we view, who we talk to. Are we in the midst of gossip, not in the midst of gossip? You know, you hear misery loves company, but we can choose what we can and can't control in so many of those situations. So I hope that you wrote those things down. And then the second thing was appreciate what you have. And that's that whole gratitude side and seeing the blessing, because I promise there is blessing even in the midst of hopelessness. It could be worse. It could be worse. And we're going to see that God is a provider and He is a protector in the midst of those places of hopelessness and refinement. And then she says there, make a list of 5 things that are a blessing for you right this minute. And I hope that each one of you wrote those down. I wrote those down right in my book of what I'm thankful for right at that moment. And then her third thing was give it some time. And some of you guys know that because I've shared about it on Facebook, my mom teaching me really young to give everything 6 weeks and to mark that calendar, because she knew I needed time on my side. And because when we're in the midst, even if we're a teenager that doesn't even know what hopelessness is, we need time to see that things change very quickly. over time. So being able to do that. And she says, feelings fog our focus, but hope filters our failure. Isn't that beautiful? Feelings fog our focus, but hope filters our failure. So I wanted to ask you, on page 77, she talked about what's in her head and how she, like, perspective and the stories that she plays in her head and the things that are going on and what she believes. And it's kind of like what one of you guys were saying earlier, that it is in the small moments. It's not in the big ones. It's in the small ones of the negative attitude, the unrealistic perception, the idea that every Monday is the start day over, right? Like, I'm going to eat whatever I want tonight. I'm going to have all the dessert I want, and I will start tomorrow. And then the doubts I let myself believe. So what are some of those things that have been in your head that you're realizing is stories that you have made up? What would be some of those?
One that I'm constantly combating is like, playing at the park with my kids is enough exercise for me today. And it's not, like I used to say, oh, my exercise is running after my kids. No, it's really not. So I kind of I found myself putting myself and my exercise, taking care of me, working out those stresses, okay, because I am in a season of stressing out a little bit here.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't take those 20 minutes, that's all it takes, 20 minutes to get a short little exercise, little workout in, whether it's morning, noon, or night, then the stress piles up. But I'm lying to myself if I say that playing is enough, because it really isn't. It's not intentional enough for me. I don't work up a sweat, that kind of thing. So I say, oh, I'll just put it off. But you put it off for a week and you're a mean mom, because you haven't taken care of your health and your mind and the stress. So I need to stop lying to myself, and I need to just invest in myself. And it's hard because I want to fit all the good things in the morning before kids get up, and it's just hard to fit in all the things I want to do in the morning. So I got to just do it.
Yeah, just do it, no matter what time it is or what type of activity. Yeah. Anybody else?
You know how you told us to go back and try to tag people or try to get more friends on our Facebook page and reach out to people that you haven't reached out to in a long time. So I did that, and I went back to high school friends, and these are like people, some of my friends, and I started contacting them again, and then started tagging some of their friends. I'm like, wait a second, that name sounds familiar. Oh yeah, they were like the popular kids, And it's amazing, like those people are now talking to me on Facebook and telling me, you gave me a Bible, and that's been my most treasured thing that I've ever had. And at that time, I thought I was just like a little insignificant little person, and I looked at them as like so high on this pedestal, and I didn't realize like the influence that I had back then. So I think now it's like being encouraging me to push out of my comfort zone of talking to people that I felt like were higher than me or
Right.
down here or something like that, but just to reach out more and just amazing to see a different perspective than what I was believing in my heart.
Yeah, we keep playing that story, don't we? And we need to not play the story. That's awesome. Yeah. Okay, so let's work through this. On page 80, and we're going to end with this, on the to be honest. And I want y'all to be honest. I want y'all to share. But what is competing in your head with the reality of what is happening in your life right now? We have to figure this out in order to keep moving forward. So list 2 things that you want to quit. Did you write down the 2 things? Did everyone, at least y'all shake your head, I won't call on you, but did everyone write down 2 things and work through that? And then it says, now think about where you are in your quitting process. Have you already decided you don't feel like doing it, so you're not? Or are you willing to recognize the need to follow through despite how you feel? What did y'all, if anybody wants to share, this was a big, I feel like I don't quit a lot of stuff because I am pretty disciplined on stuff. And this book has whipped my booty because I've quit on a lot of projects that I feel like I'm not qualified to do and don't have the expertise to do, but I've been asked to do. And so I procrastinate and quit on those. And so those were slaps in the face of the first things that came out. And even this weekend, I told my husband, I was like, I think I'm going to have to restart this conversation with this group of people that I really just quit on. I just kind of seeped into the wood floors and kind of tried to be invisible over a really huge opportunity that I just made the decision on my own that it was a little bit out of my comfort zone and I wasn't fully qualified and it was a little bit too scary. And so working through this and recognizing the need that I need to follow through despite how I feel, because the feeling is fear. And the only way you can overcome fear is through action of picking it back up. So what about you guys? What was a project that you are like, I quit that, or something in life?
I have, I thought on that, whatever it is.
Hey, Shelly, will you do me a favor? And whenever you're, put your little microphone up closer to your mouth.
Okay. How about
There.
that?
Yeah.
Alrighty. I said I quit on the budget.
We can't hear you. I'm super bummed. I'm going to put you back on mute. There we go. That was super loud, Shelly. I'm sorry. On our end, it got super loud. I really want to hear that. I know you're driving, so don't type. Don't put it in the comments, but we want to hear it. Let me try you one more time. Okay, go. Can you try to talk now? Can you hear me, Shelly? Okay, I'm going to take her back off. Somebody else, do you have something that you're in the process of quitting, and what did you make the decision? Did you don't feel like doing it, so you're not going to? Did you just make that final decision of I'm just not going to do it, or did you make the decision that you need to follow through?
I put comparing and complaining
Mm-hmm.
because I compare all the time. It's like really bad, and as it was like you compare our lives to everybody else's, you compare your business to everybody else. Like, stop doing that. It's not always, the grass is not always greener. And it's just something I always struggle with. Like, the devil knows it's my weakness, and he just keeps on. And so I am going to not quit that. I mean, I'm going to quit it. Like, I'm going to follow through on that.
Mm-hmm.
And complaining part kind of goes with the comparing. Like, I complain because I don't have what they have or whatever. And I am going to quit that too, because it's not good for me. It's not good for my spirit or my mindset. And the devil's winning every time I do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to let him win. So,
right. Absolutely. That's awesome. Awesome. Yeah, that's fantastic. We're going to take one more. I know that your heart's beating super hard because if you share it out loud, it's made public and now you're accountable to it. So whoever's heart is beating super hard and really ticked off at me right now, you need to share.
I will.
Okay.
You got me. I'm on beta blocker, so my heart isn't beating too fast right now. But yeah, I need to declutter my house, my apartment, because I was sick for about 10 years with lupus, and I was homebound on oxygen for about 3 or 4 years, and just things have piled up, and so I have been trying to declutter for the last 3 or 4 years, and I pretty much quit before I start, or I'll start for an hour. And I've read, the Marie Kondo thing. And so it's just sort of like, okay, I know I need to do this and I need to push through my feelings. And it just feels like it's an insurmountable task.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but God has been faithful. He's renewed my strength. He's given me better health than I thought, and Plexus is improving my health even more. And so I think now is the time. And now that I'm reading this book, I just feel like I need to dig in and start pushing back literally the effects of the fall
Mm-hmm.
in my life and in my apartment.
I love that. I really do. And Sherry, I feel like you have a new lease on life. And so, our prayer can just be that in the mornings when you wake, that decluttering will even declutter. I think whenever you've been sick, as long as you've been sick and been ridden to the home the way that you were for so long, it's easy that is your comfort, is to stay in that clutter. And the Lord is saying, it's time to declutter because I'm doing a brand new thing in you. And we need to move everything out because your future is bright, right? Your future is bright. So to remove all of the illness and the sickness and all the clutter that defined that in your life, because He's healing in so many ways. And so my prayer will be that you just every day that gives you an energy and excitement to do it quickly and move it out so that you can get to your future. Yeah.
Amen.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay, guys, I hope that this, oh wait, what did you say, Tracy? Hold that back up. I can come alongside you to help you if you need it. Okay, Sherry, did you see that? That's Tracy Popoff. And Tracy, Sherry is in New York City. Are you going to go to New York and go to Broadway?
Darn.
We'll all go to New York and help her. That'd be kind of fun, guys. Okay, I hope that this has been good. Many of you guys are staying quiet, but I hope that deep in your heart that it is speaking to you, that is helping you, that it is encouraging you, and the stories that you're hearing. I hope that you can say, okay, I'm not alone, and there's similarities that really resonate with me, and it helps me have hope. That's my prayer for you guys. So next week we will start, and it will be 5 and 6 will be our next chapters. And I love where we're going to. It's habit number 3. She stays open to the movement of God. And guys, usually the movement of God is not the movement that we would have ever defined for ourselves. And we're going to see that with her in the beauty of that. So you guys have a great night. Know that I'm praying for you. Y'all pray for each other. And let me know if you're being encouraged through this. Okay? Talk to y'all later. Bye.
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 Bye.